Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Because it's time to write now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
All right, and we are live. Welcome, my friends, to meeting 37 of the ReadNow Writers Group. I want to welcome all the writers here to the session, meeting, group, whatever you want to call it. This is our weekly writers group where we come together with a bunch of other writers. We chat up whatever writing craziness is on our minds. Maybe get some writing in. We'll see. We'll see what the vibe is. So make sure you stick around if you want to get some writing sprints in with us. And we'll mix that up with a little casual conversation. I feel like we might have a couple of exciting announcements today. I was just from hearing from these guys. So we'll see what everyone has on our mind. But welcome, Megan, LeMay. Glad to have you guys joining us here right at the beginning. You guys know me. I'm Kaufman. I am on a mission to help you with finishing your books. So whatever that journey is, I've got you covered. And this is our 37th session, and that's about all I got for my intro today. You guys know I'm working on Scarecrow. So excited. Finally hit the end of this last arc. I think I'm about 40% of the way through the second draft now. So I'm about to embark on this next story arc. We'll see. Hopefully I don't have to do too much rewriting and I can start making a faster progress. So that's what I'm working on today. I will kick it to the others. So I'll pass it over to you, my friend.
So, hi everyone, Chat Soul here. Getting ready for the release of Shifting Flame. It's slated for June 20th of this year. Getting ready for the convention, and I got my bookmarks today. So those will be, so anyone who wants to get a bookmark, these will eventually be available on my site. I just have to set that up for a shop, but eventually those will be available. And today I'm gonna make my butt work on To Haven's Edge.
Yay, that is so exciting. And I'm sure we'll chat more about that. I'm really eager to see what the progress is like, but I'll pass it over to you, Crazy.
Crazy Root Beer is here, believe it or not. And I have been working on a book called Fierce Grip about this creature that loves to kill people. And when it does, that person becomes what is known to be non-existent. Their lives do not exist anymore. And just recently, I had just added a new character on there. His name is Sam, and I based him on Samuel L. Jackson. So that's gonna be loads of fun.
Like which actors don't we want in our story? And I think Samuel Jackson seems to be a great character model. Probably a lot of cussing, maybe some snakes somewhere in there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm definitely eager to see how that evolves, my friend. And Calvin, I'll pass it over to you.
Hey guys, this is Calvin. My first book, Storm Chronicles, as of right now, will be released hopefully on May 15th of this year. So,
exciting.
for anyone who likes military science fiction, check it out.
Calvin, you know May 15th is my birthday, right? I was like, what?
That just means you get a copy. That just means you get a copy for free.
Oh, shucks. Best birthday present ever.
Mine's on the 31st.
Of what?
Of May?
Of May.
Well, too bad, Crazy. We share the same day, so you're going to have to share it with me.
Birthday buddies! Yay! You're the second one!
Wow, that's very exciting, my friend. I know we are so stoked to be able to see the first book of your series come out, Calvin. Yeah, very excited. I know you're also hard at work on book 2 as well. So
very much. I actually just finished chapter 15 yesterday, and as I mentioned the other day, I screwed up on 2 chapters. I actually went back and fixed one of those chapters, which you will hear later tonight if you show up at Jennifer's group.
Oh, that is super exciting. Yes, for those of you who don't know, I will be guest spot appearing, whatever you want to call it, over in Jennifer's writing group after the ReadNow writers group. So that will be super fun, and we'll see what editing, critiquing, conversations we can continue on. Kaufman is just going to be everywhere. I'm everywhere and nowhere all at the same time.
We're
So
not worthy.
where I'm not worthy of you guys.
Oh, come on now. Come on.
So with with Scarecrow, I know the one thing that I've been struggling with has been trying to cut down on word count when I keep adding more, but I need to cut down because I'm like, oh man, there's gonna be too many words. And maybe some people have been like, okay, well maybe it's that longer word count isn't an issue, but then I'm like, okay, well, it's then I don't know if it will hit mainstream appeal. But I know we're all dealing with different issues in our writing process. So I would love to hear from you guys. What's been one of your biggest obstacles lately as it pertains to what your books that you're working on? I'm curious to see if we're all like struggling with similar things or if it's all completely different issues.
Mm, I know I'm currently struggling with, well, The Haven's Edge is basically a smut book. And I'm struggling with that because I'm not really familiar with writing that.
Ooh, smut. And that's interesting because we have so many writers in our community who are definitely pro fans, pro smut, especially books that have spicy content. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Is it that you don't know how to write the scenes, or you're not sure? Like,
Pretty much. Like, I mean, I know there's different levels of like spiciness, but I have a few scenes and a few fan fictions that you obviously know something is happening, but like I don't go into detail with it. But I'm going from like a level 1 of spicy to like a minimum level 4, or however you want to put it. So there's a lot more detail, and I've been actually asking some friends in a fanfiction group and a fanfiction Discord that I'm a part of, and they've been giving me some good ideas. But it's partially it's terminology, but it's also just how far do I want to go and how do I write it so it doesn't sound crappy and corny and everything.
You know what I found is because I've edited quite a number of projects by this point, and for some reason, a large portion of them have spicy. I wouldn't say they're like the main category of spice, but have spicy scenes or material. And what I've learned is that it comes down to word choice. Word choice is very important to set the tone and the vibe. And also, still understanding that even though you're having a sex scene or spice scene, whatever you want to call it, you still have to forward the character development or the world building. You still have to forward something. Romance books, it's usually character development because it's usually how is it evolving between the two characters. Um, you we generally want to stay away from having a spice scene just for it to be spicy, unless the material is erotica, right? So
Right.
because it's understanding what the goal is. But if it's a book where it's still following a journey, the characters still have to grow from it, even if that's just growing in their physical connection with each other.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, that's yeah, that's interesting. I was like, I don't think that's something that I'm struggling with. I'm actually my character I just introduced Sil is exact opposite problem. He's trying to find his soulmate and he doesn't remember what he's looking for anymore. So he thinks that he's searching for a thing called true love, but
Ah,
he doesn't know what that means. So he keeps thinking random objects are true love, but doesn't feel that's right.
that'd be interesting.
What about the rest of you guys? What are you guys struggling with?
Well, honestly, for I think it would be the first time in several months, whenever I first started here, I'm actually getting writer's block a bit. Uh,
Oh, no.
of I would get I've gotten so far in the book, and then it's like, okay, what do I do with this now? I don't. Where am I? and so I'm just kind of trying to let it flow, and just even if it means having to make up some paragraphs here and there, and then eventually something clicks, and
Hmm.
oh, okay, we'll just grab that part of the paragraph, and that will be part of the story.
Hmm.
But right now, it's just kind of writer's block going on.
Crazy. I know that you had. I know that you had mentioned that you're considering taking a little bit of a breather from it, from writing. It's. I think what's really interesting is it sounds like you've been pretty consistent in terms of your schedule with writing over this past 7 months. Um, I think sometimes we hit points in our writing where we do need to take a break. And I know you had mentioned you were thinking about it.
Yeah.
What type of break were you thinking of taking from the writing process?
Well, that one is kind of how do I put it? About undetermined, we should say, of like whether it might be a few weeks, maybe a few months, sometime during spring or summer or something. Because obviously, when it's summertime, I'll be out doing more things with my friends that I won't really have the time to write. But
Hmm.
then also, when it comes to like taking a break, if I want to take a break for like to get rid of this uh, writer's block thing, I would say about just kind of knowing that the fact that my brain has just kind of run dry pretty much.
Hmm.
It kind of all comes to when is it going to be like, okay, now I'm ready. Now I get what I want to put on the story and all that. But otherwise, I'm not really too sure how long of a break I want to do. Because I know and I'm very surprised. I am pretty proud of myself that I've actually stuck with this for, as you said, 7 months. Because usually I don't last that long with things, and so I'm pretty proud of myself for even lasting that long, for being able to write so many books. And
Hmm.
it's no wonder that my brain is completely fried by now.
I think it sounds like you've definitely created a lot, and it sounds like you kind of achieved your goal of just being consistent, being able to put out these books. How many books have you done in the past 7 months?
Ooh, uh, I'd have to go back to my Inca to look up that one. 'Cause,
Yeah,
I wanna say about, like, uh, maybe 13 or 14, maybe?
which is awesome. I think that's absolutely incredible. It's crazy. I hear from so many writers online who definitely can get burnt out from the writing process.
Mhm,
Um, and I think what I appreciate about you is you recognizing, right, that you're feeling burnt out creatively, writer's block. And I think it's actually really powerful for writers to be able to take a break from writing. I think that is very important. My
mhm,
only piece of advice, because I hear this from writers all the time, is, and you can take it or leave it. It's completely up to you, of course. But I
mhm,
always recommend this to writers when they're ready to take a break from writing. Instead of being like, all right, I'm going to take a break and I'll return eventually,
mhm,
I would rather that somebody be like, I'm going to take a break for this period of time, whether that's 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, however long feels right. And
right,
then when that time ends, it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I have to go back to that same writing consistency. But I
right,
think then it's a check-in. I think it's then to check in with yourself to try writing again and feel if it's changed. The reason
right,
I recommend that is because what happens so many times is writers hit a block point. They feel drained, and then they stop writing. They're like, "I'm going to come back to it," and
mhm.
then they stop writing for years. And if like that's fine for us to take a break, but if we take a few years from writing, how do we get our books published and grow our continue on our author journey?
Well, just so nobody freaks out, I'm not planning on taking years off or anything like that. I don't plan for it to be that long. If that does happen, then you might as well kiss my rear end goodbye, 'cause I who knows when that would mean that I'm coming back, but I don't plan on it being like years and years. I would say just a few months at the most. And every now and then I would, if I get an idea somewhere, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to get. I'll like write every now and then in my book and whatnot. The same with yeah, just writing every now and then in my book, and then once I feel that drain again, it's like, okay, let's get back to just kind of taking a break a little bit. But if that little spark hits a little bit, then I'll write something down. But I don't trust me. I do not plan on making it years and years. It's just months.
That's good. That's good. I think it comes down to how well we know ourselves, right?
Yeah,
In terms of how much time we actually need, because everyone's different, right?
right.
And you've produced a lot. You've written a lot over the past 7 months. One person might need a week. One person might need a year, right? And I think
And
it's understanding what we need for us to be able to recharge creatively.
and that is yet another one of my weakness besides writer's block, obviously,
Hmm.
is that I I'm not like everybody here, and you
Hmm.
guys are awesome. Don't get me wrong, and I'm pretty proud of all of you for doing what you guys do. But I'm not like everybody where I can't really just stick with something all year round. I gotta sometimes take my breaks, or else I'll just want to rip my head off.
It sounds like you have to you bounce around between different hobbies.
Yeah, yep, pretty much. I'm pretty much kind of doing that right now, actually, with gaming wise. Sadly. But I go from one game series, then get bored with that, and then go to another game series if I feel like it. But with writing, that's completely different because it's one thing, and I'm glad that I've been able to stick around with it this long when usually I don't stick around with things so long. And
Crazy? I'm curious. Why do you think you stuck around with it so much longer this time around? What was different for you?
I think it's because the fact that I get to, because you know how when you imagine things or imagine something, you just wish, man, I want to show somebody what I'm thinking of, what my imagination is and
Hmm.
whatnot. I think the reason why I've lasted this long is because all that imagination that is inside my teeny tiny itsy bitsy yellow polka dot bikini of a brain is decided to finally pour out in these multiple books, and it feels like, oh, that feels so good. I'm finally getting to unleash my imagination, and it just
Hmm.
didn't seem to stop. And it was like, oh, this feels so good. I love it. I get to finally spread around my imagination to people instead of just leaving it up there in my noggin and just telling absolutely nobody in the
Hmm.
world. I can finally just say, hey, look at this. This is what I came up with. This is what I've been imagining for my life for years. I'd like to show you these things. What do you think?
Hmm. I absolutely love that. And I can totally resonate with that on the creative side of it, of being able to be like, all right, I have all these things that I have to share with the world and
Uh-huh.
tell the story for these characters that need their stories to be told.
Yes.
And I think I love hearing that. And it sounds like you've had so much creativity that you've really been able to share that. And it sounds like maybe you've had more this past 7 months. It's allowed you to be a little bit more consistent with your goals.
Yeah, a couple like for instance, the whole fear's grip was something I never thought of before, so this was brand spanking new. And the fact that I thought of about having Holly doing her first book alone, or whatever you'd call it, that
Mm-hmm.
part was never in the whole series at all. I never thought about doing her own book. So
Mm,
you're right. The imagination still keeps going, but as for trying to, think like while writing a certain book or maybe a couple books, eventually things just, like I said, get uh, kind of stop and at a
mhm,
standstill. Like, yes, I can still imagine what I want to write, but in the long run, I kind of just burnt out and kind of want to refresh myself a little bit.
I totally understand that. I think whenever you're ready to get back to writing, I
Mhm.
think that thing to never forget is the way that the creativity, the inspiration, that translating it to a book, you want to keep that the way that made you feel, right? And
Yeah.
that at heart is how we tether ourselves to our writing, because a lot of people do struggle with it, and I also totally feel you as well. I can
Yeah.
tell in the chat as well. Let's see, Megan was like definitely agreeing with that. Megan said last week they had a week off from work to recharge from
Mhm.
this anime con was their vacation.
Mhm.
So I can definitely tell it resonates with a number of people. Crazy. And I do think
Yeah.
taking breaks is healthy. I do think
Yeah.
taking breaks
Yeah.
is absolutely healthy. Um, where, especially when we're in positions that we can take breaks. I think if um, once we become published with indie publishers or traditional publishing and it
Mhm.
becomes more of a career, it's a little different to try to take a break from. But
Right.
as self-published authors, right, we have control of our own schedule, especially if it's like one of our hobbies that we're pursuing. I think that's the powerful thing of it, that we're able to enjoy these different hobbies as as we need it. Well, it's awesome, Crazy. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really
No
appreciate it.
problem. No problem. Thank you.
Calvin, what about you? Are you any struggles on your end, my friend?
My latest struggle, to be honest, has been impatience because
Impatience.
well I
Interesting.
well I know the first book is so close to being published. It's like it's kind of like when you see the finish line and all you want to do is you want to sprint. You want to just abandon like what's been your slow, steady pace and be like, I
Hmm.
want to get it done. I want to get it out there, especially
Hmm.
because I've been getting such good positive feedback from a lot of people. Like, I want to get it
Hmm.
out there,
Hmm.
but I know I've got to. It's like I need these last 2 months to really make the books pop. So
Hmm.
it's like keeping that slow, steady pace to be like, just keep going, trudging along, don't
Hmm.
rush it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's really interesting because, and that's probably a feeling that most writers get to when they get close to their their book launch. The closer
Mhm.
they get, like, I know I'll start feeling like that within the 1 2 month release of Scarecrow. Like I totally understand that, and I think then the way to transition or trans it's the question is, what do you do with that energy, right? It's like a feeling of like anticipation. And it sounds like you've been pivoting it into working on the second book.
Yeah, I have been. I mean, um, I'm fixing 14 right now to finish it because, like I was saying the other day, it was supposed to be fought in a city, and then I realized as I'm writing, like, wait a minute, this is more in like a desert battle. So I'm like, okay, gotta stop that. I pivoted ahead for a chapter, then I'm like, all right, I'm ready to come back and fix this chapter.
Like it's time. It's time to come in and do the work. Well, that's really really awesome, Calvin. And I also think that when we get within months of our of the book launch, and I know like you've done everything that you can up to this point to get book one ready so far. And then I think the closer we get, then the conversation starts becoming, how are we spreading awareness, right? And I can speak from all the authors that I've interviewed. I've interviewed about 30 to 40 authors so far, through the podcast and through streams, and then just connecting with authors over social media. What I've learned is how, if we don't have money to invest in paid advertising, which is fine, most authors, or unless you're doing like crowdfunding or something to that extent. The question is, how are we creating free awareness, or how are we creating organic awareness so that more people know about our books?
Well, I've done like with you guys, done a lot of advertising when we're on this
Mhm.
site, but I have literally joined every Facebook group that does not have a specific like, hey, I'm only for children's books and things like that. And
Mhm.
I've just been advertising as much as I am allowed to advertise within, what the group says. Some groups
Mhm.
are like, you're only limited to one post a day, and other ones are like, yeah, post once every couple days and you'll be good.
Facebook, yep, Facebook's a good one. What other platforms? So I know you probably had to advertise a lot for your book as well. And crazy, I'm not sure what you've done with your books. I'm trying to think of like where are spots to spread awareness.
Let's see. I know I've gone on Ream before, although I didn't do much on there, and I really should have. I didn't promote my book as much as I should have, to be honest, and I kind of hate myself for that. I think I've actually done more advertising with the ReadNow community than I have like anywhere else.
But the great thing is you can always promote the book, right? It's not like the book's just going to disappear one day, right? The book will always be there in perpetuity. And the more you create, the more you have in your catalog.
Yeah.
Especially with the next book that's coming out soon.
Yeah, this time I'm going to be a lot smarter about it. For one, I made sure to have the physical copy actually done, and hopefully the physical copy of it will be arriving in the next few weeks, so I can
so you have
actually
the
print it and
promo.
have it available.
Yep. What are you going to do with the physical copy when you get it?
Let's see if I can.
I want you to take 1,000 pictures and do social media posts every single day. So that's what I want you
Oh
to
my!
do.
I don't think I can do it every single day.
Every day.
Challenge
Every
accepted.
hour. Every hour of every hour.
Oh my! I don't think I can do that much.
You can do it.
No,
No, I
You're
do.
never gonna know until you try.
It's really it's doing something consistently that works for your schedule, right? That's really what it comes down to. Because the truth is, like, Calvin, same for you. Like, your readers are out there, right? The readers who like your type of books are out there. It's just you have to go find them.
Yes.
Because even if we rely on Amazon will give us maybe a little visibility when it hits their algorithm, but Amazon's a pay-to-play model. And unfortunately, Amazon is 80% of the book market. So you can, of course, there are other platforms, of course, and there are easy ways for Amazon through doing the Kindle Unlimited. There are ways to get awareness, but a lot of authors have generally shared that the way they get a lot of awareness on Amazon's platform is by paying. And then you have to understand what your cost per click is for Amazon customers. Now, I don't think that paying is the only way to do it. I think that's just the most consistent, most common way because of the way Amazon does their books. I think finding as many communities to advertise in is a smart thing. Let's see, where else and then also think about, like, where else do readers go? Where else? TikTok? Like, everyone should have a thing on TikTok and be in book talk. Instagram has a huge author community. Huge author community. Let's see. Calvin, are you thinking about doing any type of physical in-person book launch at all?
I haven't decided yet. I mean, there's not much of a book community near me where I am.
Okay.
So, I mean, the last group I was a part of was like, you've got 5 minutes to present something. I'm thinking, like, it'll take me 5 minutes just to get loaded up.
Have you? Are there any bookstores in your area?
Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million, things like that. I mean, I've been debating on going to them to see if they'll let me do something.
You should. Calvin, you should, because literally you can go to them. What's the worst that they're going to say?
Let's see. Well, I have been laughed at the middle of my face, so I think that's about as low as I can get on what's the worst that can happen.
Wait, the what? Wait, what'd you say?
I've just had people like laugh at my face, so I think that's the lowest I can get on the what's the worst that can happen.
But if somebody laughs in your face, then can't you just laugh right back at their face? Like, shouldn't that be like you're like, I'm like, ha 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 with you. I'll be successful, I swear.
Unfortunately, I tend to get too snarky. I'll be honest. When people do shit like that, I get snarky as hell. You guys have had small samples of when I get snarky.
Yeah, yes, we do. I know you've shared some of your stories before. But I can take it back. I've seen that. I've heard of that. Right? What's the worst that can happen? They can laugh. You can feel more rejection.
But actually, you're right. You're right. There is really nothing to lose and everything to potentially gain.
Well, because I mean, because laughing in your face, I mean, that's like a momentary emotional hurt, but like, there's way more to gain. There's so much more possibility.
Actually, I think if I do this and someone laughs in my face, I'm just gonna be like, "Well, I'm not hearing a no there, so I'm just gonna go over here and do it."
Right? Exactly. Yes. What I found for first-time authors Calvin, are there any local bookstores in your community?
I think there's a couple.
Try the local bookstores first, because local bookstores love to support local authors.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
that's an idea.
100% of the time. All you have to do is go in and introduce yourself to whoever the owner is, and they probably have some type of program or some type of sign up or something where they promote local authors. Because if a local author has a good book, they get the books. It's an exclusive local author thing, or not necessarily exclusive, but it's a local author thing, and then it gives them more money. It's a win-win.
Mhm.
And out of hindsight, if I tell my wife I'm going to go touring different bookstores, she'll just come along for the hell of it so she can go check out bookstores.
Exactly, right? So then you can make an
There
adventure
you
out of
go.
it. And I know that's definitely something when I'm ready with a Scarecrow, I've already started forming relationships with local bookstores. Even though like I'm not sure when Scarecrow will be ready. Hopefully in a couple months. We'll see what progress this is going. But I'm already forming the relationships now, so that way when I'm ready to launch Scarecrow, I can have a Scarecrow launch at every single bookstore in the area.
That sounds like a good
You guys
idea.
know me. Go big or go home. That seems to be my motto. But it's my belief though that I know like it. I believe it's a good book. So I feel then I just have to find the readers out there who are interested in that type of book. And literally, if you can get a book thing at a bookstore, that's literally free promo. Like that's literally free advertising. You don't have to pay Amazon. I mean, it's not like where Amazon you have to pay. A local bookstore, I don't think they generally charge for those things because they are already hosting the space, but it's probably different for every bookstore. Barnes & Noble can work too. Barnes & Noble is going to be a little bit more of a corporate. Is going to have a little bit more of like a corporate hierarchy and structure. And I don't know what that process looks like as much. I've known a couple authors who've done Barnes & Noble stuff, but they've generally been represented through indie publishers. So it's probably just different. I don't think it hurts to talk to like a manager or somebody who at
Right.
Barnes & Noble. I think most of us, especially early on in our author careers, probably just have a better chance at local.
Well, my only other option was to partner with the Girl Scouts when they're selling their cookies.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Everybody
Bring
loves
me
Girl
some.
Scout cookies. Literally everybody loves Girl Scout cookies.
My father,
Except
father.
Chat Soul hates Girl Scout cookies with a dying passion.
Well, then chat.
It's not that bad.
Chat Soul hates
Chat.
Girl Scout
Well,
cookies.
Chat. If you really don't like Girl Scout cookies, you should know my father-in-law who used to make them told me a couple years ago that the company he used to work for overbought them, and they had to take like 29 million boxes to a landfill and personally crush them
Jesus.
or something. It was an insane number that they had to destroy, and it wasn't one of those just like throw them in the garbage and be done. They had to crush them, burn them, like make sure no one salvaged them.
Oh my goodness, that is so crazy.
Cookies. Nom, 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 nom.
Oh man, what like?
Root beer, no eating your computer screen to get the cookies.
The cookie wants the cookie so badly.
Dang, but the Girl Scout cookies is interesting because the Girl Scout strategy seems to be they go to every like grocery, every like retail place. They basically try to go give out the cookies and the orders at almost all places possible. It's interesting. I feel like when Girl Scout cookies are in season, you kind of see them everywhere.
Mhm.
I don't know. I was gonna buy them out, then be like, okay, buy a copy of the book, your choice of cookies for free.
That's actually a good strategy.
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy. I think that absolutely is. You get that. Yeah, that's a really great strategy, actually. I like that, Calvin. And you see, that's how you get attention, right? You got to be creative. Oh man. Okay, so let's see. So I think on that note, it sounds like we're kind of all dealing with some different things. Megan. It's funny. She's like, is it just me or is it quiet in the chat tonight? Yeah, I mean that happens sometimes. Some streams are a little slower depending on the week. But I'm not surprised because after 435 consecutive streams, it happens.
You have us
So
all to yourself.
exactly, Megan. We are here to help you with getting some writing done. So on that note, let's try to get some writing done. Wait, what do you guys think? You guys done for a writing sprint?
Yeah, that sounds good. Got a little bit of time.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm like trying to think of. I go to my timer, and the last one that I had set was 45 minutes. So let's do 30 minutes. I feel like 30 minutes seems to be a good starting point, as I have to set up my screen on my end. Remind me again, how far are you guys into your stuff, into your books? I know Calvin. I know you shared you're on about chapter 19 or 20.
No, I'm at 16, but I'm about
16.
25,000 words in.
Out of how many chapters, or what's like what would be like the perfect count for that?
I'm thinking like 70, 80,000 for this one
Okay.
because it's the second book, so I got to go a little more in depth, things like that. There are a couple side stories I'm going to tackle on this one.
Okay. What about the rest of you guys?
I'm nearing the end of chapter 4 for To Haven's Edge because I've just been focused on pirates. So
I mean, that makes sense. You're also near a book launch, so I'm not surprised by that.
plus, I actually did get the first part of the final book kind of outlined,
Mhm.
and I already have the major characters lined up. So
Ooh, that's exciting. Exciting. You're at the early part of the story where you're exploring all the things and doing all the fun stuff still.
yeah, and honestly, it's already turning dark as hell. So
Well, chat, if you're doing pirate things and you need some inspiration, Lazy Town, you are a pirate. Hey, I've got kids. I know all kinds of music.
I'll have to check that out. Usually, what I listen to for pirate stuff is a Sail North, but
So
Oh no, this is just a funny song. I just find it hilarious. You'll probably get a kick out of it.
All right, let's see. I am all set on my end. Let's see. So I think I have it all ready over here. All right, perfect. So we got 30 minutes on the clock. Whether you are brainstorming, writing, or editing, that's all part of the process. Come join us because it's time to write now. All right, writing sprint done. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How'd that treat you guys? Were you able to make some progress that time?
I was able to edit a little bit and add about a couple
Okay.
more sentences.
That is always helpful. Being able to get a little bit done helped. I was literally just revising. I was literally just revising the last thing that I'd worked on. Yeah. I was like, I wanted to make sure the end of the last chapter actually worked. What about you, Sil? Any progress in your end? Sol's audio or might be having problems. I know it was going back and forth. So let's see what we got here. So let's check in here on the chat. Nice, Megan. Looks like Megan, you got 630 words. Nice. Nice, 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 my friend. That's awesome. Sounds like that writing sprint was pretty effective for you. That's actually pretty cool. Like 630 words. And I know we saw a couple of new writers hop into the chat. Totally no worries. We're actually going to be hopping into another sprint in just a little bit. So make sure that you'll be able to stick around. We'll get some more writing in. And let's see. Megan, chapter 12 of your fanfic. Awesome. It's cool. It's cool when we're all able to show up and we're all like making some progress, which is really awesome.
Progress
Nice.
rules.
I was able to revise about 3 pages.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Awesome. So it sounds like we were all making some progress. Sol, I hear you again. So what'd you accomplish on your end?
I actually finished chapter 4 and just finished chapter 5 even.
Wow, were you able to get past the spice block?
I'm actually going to write the spicy block later. I have the setup for it, but the actual details I'm gonna do later, more because I'm just still trying to figure out exactly what I'm gonna be writing.
Okay.
So I ended up focusing on just the next part where basically the main character finds out the secondary character is not what they seem, and it's just kind of like a big mindfuck.
Oh, well, I absolutely love that. And I am totally a fan of, even if we have to put a placeholder or where like we come back to it, I think still pushing ourselves to progress is always a win. Let's see, how am I doing on? I'm trying to think about how I'm doing on Scarecrow. I introduced this new character in this last chapter, and I've really been wanting him to feel quirky and unique and different than the others. And I think I've accomplished it. I'm like kind of going through it right now and seeing how I feel. So I mean the character was this grizzly bear, and I had him in the original draft, but he didn't really become more predominant till the back half of the book. And I realized he needed a stronger introduction and setup. So I'm like, I think I feel better about him. How do you guys usually feel about character introductions? Do you feel that characters need a really like predominant intro when they're first introduced to the reader?
It depends on the character.
I
Obviously
agree.
the main character, it needs to be, something big. It needs to be, okay, this is obviously the main character.
For a
But then if you
protagonist,
got like
absolutely.
yeah, but then if you got like, a secondary character or a major character, whatever you call it, I think it depends on how important the character is. If it's a character that is like the sidekick basically,
Mm-hmm.
they don't need to have like as big as the protagonist, but it does
Mm-hmm.
need to be pretty big. But then if you have a character that's like they need to be there, but they're kind of more in the background. You
Mm-hmm.
need enough to introduce them. So basically, a basic description, maybe something important about them, at least why they're there. But then I don't think you need any more than that because otherwise it's going to be not exactly an info dump, but probably something close to that.
Yeah, and so you definitely, of most of the writers I know, you do write very large casts of characters in your work. So it sounds like you'll only prioritize certain characters' introductions, depending on how big a role they have.
Yeah, I actually did that with some of the characters in Burning Ember when I introduced Brennar.
Mm-hmm.
His was actually a little underwhelming at first, but
Mm-hmm.
then suddenly it's just like he's there and in your face. Sonus's introduction was actually really big.
Mm-hmm.
We don't we get his description, but then
Mm-hmm.
like at the end of the chapter, we actually see something that's like, holy crap, what in the world was that? So it was kind of like vague, but enough of an introduction that it's like, okay, this character is obviously important. We cannot disregard him in any way. And then we learn more about him like 2-3 chapters later.
Okay. So it's almost like a foreshadow in a sense is really what you did. You're like foreshadowing his character.
In his case, literally.
Quite literally. Let's see. How do I feel about character intros? And by the way, if you're just hopping into the stream, we're just talking about setting up and introducing characters. I would love to hear from you in the chat. How do you like to introduce your characters? Do you feel like they need like a lot of action? Do you feel like you got to describe them? Do you want them to just pop up like a like a mystery, a mystery that the reader gets to unravel? So, and I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to do character introductions. I think about what I do when I think about characters. Obviously, the protagonist. So I completely agree with you. The protagonist has to be introduced and made clear from the very beginning because that's whose story that we're telling. But outside of our protagonist, I think the supporting cast depends on how much they will affect the plot, either at that part of the story or the overarching story. Because I think the amount of time that you're going to spend on introducing your main sidekick is probably going to be vastly different than a character who shows up for one scene. And I don't know, because sometimes characters go back and forth in terms of like, okay, they're really predominant now, but then maybe they won't show up in the later part of the book. Maybe they'll show up later in the series. And I I think it's my belief that if we want the reader to feel emotionally connected, because remember at the end of the day we want to make a reader feel something. I think that character setups are important. I think that if the character is going to have screen or book time, page time, I think the reader needs to have enough of an idea of who the character is. And everyone knows with Scarecrow, I'm very heavy on character development. I'm very character focused. But I think the reader has to have a strong enough idea of who the character is, even if that character evolves, even if they change over time, so that they can get a clear enough sense of who this character's personality is.
I could almost argue with that just a little bit.
Okay. All right, give it to
And the
me.
only reason I say that is the one of the antagonists for the fight for Raging Inferno,
Mm-hmm.
we actually hear bits and pieces about her in the first book,
Mm-hmm.
and we get to meet her in the second. And in the first book, well, we pretty much hear basically that we hear what her powers are,
Mm-hmm.
and that she has some kind of connection to Kasai and his family,
Mm-hmm.
but so little information is given out in the first book. In the second book, there's still very little, even when you actually meet her.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the third book, I have to admit, it's going to be a little in your face.
You know what's interesting? So let me say that, and I know this actually Lynn basically expressed the same thing. Lynn said antagonist is the most important intro in my opinion. I think our antagonist it fits into a different role, into a different category, because obviously our protagonist, the reader needs to know who they are up front. Supporting characters are going to be affecting the plot throughout, but essentially, like unless your antagonist is heavily ingrained in the plot throughout the book, then technically they're part of the overarching story and they don't need to be introduced until they become more predominant. Now you could foreshadow them a bunch, but unless they're and I'm trying to think of stories where the antagonist is predominant in the world. But I mean, a lot of the times the antagonist for a lot of stories isn't really the antagonist is foreshadowed early on, but they're not really introduced until Act 3 most of the times of a book, or whatever the last third of the book is in a lot of instances. And I mean, I could think about like my antagonist for at least the last Scarecrow is the antagonist is the first demon. And he's like very loosely referred. He's like very lightly referred to in the first 50% of the book. He's very periodically to draw tension. But then once the characters get closer, you start learning more, and then he's in your face. And then he's basically like, yeah. So
That's
I think I could agree with that though. So crazy. What were
that
you gonna say?
that's kind of like what I'm doing with uh who the uh, big honcho is in my Heavenly Warriors series is Shadow God. Um, he has been mentioned, kind of foreshadowed, maybe mentioned a few times over the series. Throughout the
Mhm,
series, he's been mentioned several times
mhm,
about like how one of these days he's gonna come here and he's just gonna, you know, he's gonna need to be stopped. And then other
mhm,
times
mhm,
it's just kind of just spoken about him of like, uh, especially in the Raziel Chronicles trilogy,
mhm.
um, uh, a person would, if I can remember right, because it's been so long ago, um, where this guy mentioned to Raziel about the Shadow God, um, about like there being like this ultimate person is going to be coming here sometime in the future, and you need to be prepared to stop him. And the Raziel Chronicles takes place, I think I put it at the 1400s or something, and
Mhm,
now we're in the present day. So it's
mhm,
taken this, if you count how many years it's been since then,
mhm.
this dude's been talked about for decades and decades, and here and there throughout the series. And my
Interesting. So it sounds like
and
it's been like a slow build up throughout the overarching
exactly,
series. Mhm.
exactly. And my plan is, spoiler alert, in the very last book, the Shadow God will actually finally come out. He will finally appear.
Yeah, and I'm not actually surprised by that. Xena, I was like, I hope I pronounced it right. Xena mentioned Voldemort, right? And I think
Yeah,
Harry Potter Voldemort is actually a perfect example.
yeah,
Um, Technically, Voldemort is not the antagonist of each individual book. Voldemort is the antagonist of the overarching series, right? Each book has a villain of the month, so to speak, right? Now, of course, Voldemort's generally indirectly involved, right? But first book is Quirrell. Second book, Chamber Sequence is technically Voldemort, but technically you could argue it's a Horcrux since it's more Tom Riddle. But really, like, and then third book is uh,
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Prisoner of Azkaban. So it's technically I
Sirius Black. I,
was like it technically, but here he's the hero.
yeah, but I mean, at the
It's
time
long since
they
I
kind
watched
of
it. Yeah, I'm
they
trying to
kind of
remember
don't
how
know
that
that
antagonist. That's right. Yeah. Well,
because
clearly that's
they think
mhm.
that that he's coming to Hogwarts to kill Harry Potter.
You're right. But then they team
Mhm.
up at the end. But I'm trying to think
Mhm.
of the end. I'm like, then there's the werewolf. There's the werewolf battle. So then he kind of becomes the antagonist. But and you know what's interesting is there's not actually one clear antagonist because that's a role reversal since Sirius really isn't the bad guy.
For the
True.
for the third
You could say
one, the
you
main
could say Peter Pettigrew.
antagonist. Well, for the third book, the main antagonist actually would probably be Peter Pettigrew.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with both you guys.
Mhm.
Um,
Of course, the fifth one
yeah,
is
because
that's
he's kind of like the
insane.
mastermind. He's kind of the mastermind in a sense in the third book.
Yeah.
But we're falsely, and a lot of people love the third book. I loved the third book. That was my
Hmm.
first favorite one of the series because of how much darker it was, and then it subverted expectations. Um, but I think that goes to show, right, that who Voldemort is, by the time we got to book 7, we had enough of fear and idea of who he was, so we
Yeah.
had enough sense. but we didn't get the direct conversations with him and Harry Potter until really books. I mean, I guess technically we got that in book 4 a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but book 7's where you get all the confrontations. So
Yeah.
and I think what's important, Lynn actually called out to this. Lynn said, I like having the antagonist established in the first 3 chapters, but I write romance, so antagonist doesn't always mean villain. And I think, Lynn, something very important that you're absolutely touching upon is genre differences, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing an antagonist of an epic fantasy story is going to be vastly different than the antagonist of a horror thriller story. Thrillers, the antagonist is generally introduced in the very beginning, but it's you're surprised. It's you want to confuse the reader and give the mystery so you don't know who the antagonist is. But generally in mysteries, the antagonist is introduced right in the beginning with a whole other cast of characters, so you don't know who the actual antagonist is. In romance, a lot of the times, like there's no bad guy. Sometimes antagonists can be the relationship dynamic. And I think it's also understanding what is the antagonist to our protagonist, right? Sometimes the antagonist is a character. Sometimes the antagonist is our protagonist versus the world. A lot of romance, sometimes it's the protagonist versus this relationship or an ideal of themselves. Sometimes the antagonist is the protagonist themselves. And I think that's actually it's a really interesting conversation. It really is when I think about antagonists, because I think it's definitely different depending. I'm curious, before we hop into another writing sprint, who is your guys' favorite antagonist of all time? I like favorite antagonist.
From
It
what?
doesn't necessarily have to be a character, but we'll
Okay.
just say favorite antagonist, because sometimes it's a world event. Sometimes, most of the time, it's a character. Sometimes it's an idea. But what is your guys' favorite antagonist in a book or a media franchise? I'll go. We'll keep it wide open.
Oh, that's no fair, man. That's no fair.
I opened it up. I'm making it easier for everyone. Let's see. My favorite antagonist. Man, there's so many good ones. There are so many good antagonists. I was like, I asked the question and then I didn't even have the answer for it. That cracks me up.
So far, I can only think of 2. But give me a few more seconds. I'll probably think of a third one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say Darth Vader simply because the character is so memorable.
Surprisingly, it's not Darth Vader. But well, I'll give you that one. But surprisingly, it's not Darth Vader. That would actually be the Emperor. But but surprisingly, it's not Darth Vader. The only 2 I can think of right now is Jigsaw and Voldemort.
Jigsaw is a pretty good antagonist, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Jigsaw is a good antagonist. I think as the franchise evolves, it could be argued whether they stay true to who Jigsaw's character is.
Yeah.
But Jigsaw inherently, I would say, especially in the first couple Saw movies, was very well done antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, like franchises fall into that trap where they have to figure out how to keep expanding the story. And Saw's like, well, let's just do more traps. People want to come do more traps. So then it becomes about the gore shock value instead of the character story.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Jigsaw was a great antagonist. Oh yeah, let me think of like horror movies, like thriller, mystery. Like I feel like I've seen so many. I'm like, who is who are great ones? Oh man, that's a good question.
Strangely, I think mine, or at least one of mine, might actually be Scourge from Warriors. The first arc, the prophecies begin.
Mm-hmm.
He was barely there for the arc, but there's a comic that was made for him where we actually got to see his origins.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was obviously a villain when we met him.
Mm-hmm.
but when you actually read his backstory, it was an accident. He wasn't born a villain. It was literally by chance, and he just rolled with it, and all because of one cat who was, well, I think one of the most major antagonists in most of the series, all because he hated Tiger Star, who nearly killed him when he was a kid. He just, I don't really think Scourge was that bad. It was just more of the cats he was surrounded with. And it was more of like he was trapped in that and he didn't know how to get out. That's almost what it seems like to me after reading his backstory.
Interesting.
I guess because he's one of those antagonists where you feel pity for him simply because of his circumstance.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do a good. I don't. They're not necessarily an anti-hero, but it's the character who starts out as a bad guy and then by the end they transition into.
Well, with him, it was the opposite. It was just innocent kid who just turns bad because he probably doesn't have much of a choice.
Oh man, and I know that we definitely had some fan favorites here as well. Let's see who else. Lillian was like, it depends on the character. My MC thinks about her husband a lot because he's her boyfriend. It's in first POV, so reading her thoughts tells you a lot about her too. Zena, I like that you're going on classics. You're touching upon a classic. Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights is a great classic example of a very traditional, very traditional villain. Definitely Wuthering Heights is a good read. Agreed with that. It's been a while since I've touched upon that. My favorite classic book is always Don Quixote, but really, the antagonist of Don Quixote is himself. For those of you guys who don't know, Don Quixote is like a 60, 70-year-old man with dementia in medieval times who goes around with his squire, thinking that he's saving everybody, but he just makes everything worse. It's a very, very funny story. It's Don Quixote is a really great classic. Let's see. Lynn's like, it's slightly immature, but I do love Darkling in Shadow and Bone. Darkling's a good character. I didn't read the book. I only saw the Netflix adaptation. But I remember enjoying the antagonist of that first series, if that's the same one that I'm thinking of. Stephanie, like, I think my favorite antagonist is the one in my own book. And it's a character no one expects until the end. Like, all right, guys, I changed my answer. My favorite antagonist is the first demon.
Dang it. Well, in that case, mine is Raziel.
Oh man, I was trying to think of an antagonist who wasn't like as generic, like because I was like, I almost went Game of Thrones, but I'm like, all right, that he is a cool antagonist, but maybe Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time has some excellent antagonists in that world. Yeah, I might go the Wheel of Time series actually.
Thanos is a good one in my opinion.
Oh, Thanos is a great antagonist.
Yeah,
and they handled him so well in the cinematic universe. Like, yeah, they did really well with Thanos.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason that Infinity War and Endgame went on to be the biggest box office movies of that time.
Yep.
Eccentric is like, my all-time favorite antagonist villain ever is Hades of Disney's Hercules. He has a great personality and clear motivation. Yep, Hades is always a Disney villain favorite. Yeah, I could agree with that. Hades is a great one.
Yes.
Let's see. We got Zora Salazar. I'm not sure who Zora Salazar is. Sounds familiar. That antagonist sounds very familiar. Okay. So on that note, we're having some great recommendations here for antagonists. As we're hitting this next point, let's get some more writing in. So let's get in another sprint. We're at 37. So we will we'll make this one easy so we can do 25 minutes on this next sprint. I'm going to make sure we have enough time. Awesome. And we'll see what we can get accomplished with the second sprint. I feel like we're going to have to be productive, my friends. Let's do it. Let's see what type of writing we can get into this next sprint. And by the way, if you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. We're here every day with the Right Now community. Whether you want daily writing sprints, this is our weekly writers group. We got critique streams. I got the podcast where we interview authors. We're currently doing our Read Now book club for writers. We'll have the fiction fantasy contest in the spring and much, much more. This is a daily writing community, 430 plus consecutive streams and counting. So make sure you tap that follow or subscribe button and you'll be alerted when we go live. All right, my friends. I wanted to get the subscribe banner in. I think I'm all ready. So let's do it, whether you are brainstorming, writing, or editing. That's all part of the process. Come join us because it's time to write now. All right, writing sprint done. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How were you guys able to do? Were you able to get some progress that time?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
A little bit more editing.
What were you able to accomplish? Let's see.
I got most of chapter 6 done. I'm like at the very tail ends, and then I get to get to some more action scenes.
Woo, that's always exciting. I know how much you hate action scenes. Let's see. What about you, Crazy? Any luck?
I got to at least edit a bit more things and kind of fix some of my paragraphs that did not make any sense.
You're muted, Crazy.
I can hear him just fine.
Yeah, I can't. I can't unmute on this for some reason. Can you still hear me, chat? Soul?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
For some reason.
Oh, that's
There we
interesting.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Interesting. Yeah, that's actually really strange. He's muted on my computer. But I looked at the YouTube chat, and I hear him from the YouTube chat. It's interesting.
Can you hear me now?
Strange.
You might have to refresh your page, Crazy. That's what I had to do.
Yeah, but I mean, I could hear you from the YouTube live stream. So
Kaufman is awesome.
Feels like it might just be on my end for some reason. That's very strange.
How do I reset?
What are you gonna do?
I would just say, Crazy, yeah, just refresh your page and see if that makes a difference.
Okay, let me see. Hold on.
Hmm.
Give me a second. Oh, wait. Let's see if he can hear me now.
I was like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just me.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
That was strange.
Yeah, it's super weird.
What were you saying though, Crazy?
I was saying that I would actually at least got a few more editing done and fix some sentences that did not make any sense at all.
That's always a plus. You're like, why did I write that?
Exactly. It's like, no, wait a minute. This scene is not making sense unless I turn the day into night, because that's not what I'm envisioning right now.
I think I did. Well, I was just doing a review. I think I reviewed the majority of this, or the back end of this chapter, which was about 2,000 words, give or take. But I was doing more like revising on my end before I can finally like leave it. I feel like I'm kind of at that point in the story where I'm just like I'm at the end of like the fun and games part of the story, and now I'm like about to embark on the path that's going to lead them towards the midpoint.
That's
But
always
it's like a 9 chapter build up. It's a 9 chapter arc. Wow. It feels like it's been so long since I've been worked on this part of the story, and like all the fun characters I get to go play with in the in the weeks to come. Awesome. And it sounds like we had some good progress here in the chat. Let's see. Xena, 604 words out of 750 needed in my daily journal. Success. Nice. Eccentric, I made some good editing progress. I feel almost ready to give 3 chapters to my alpha reader. That's so exciting, my friend. It's good that you have an alpha reader already set up. Having readers are so important. Let's see. And yeah, so it looks like we all made some great progress today, and we're just over the 2-hour mark. So guys, thank you all for joining. This is once again another successful writers group as we hit, well, this is 37. Yeah.
Yes.
So make sure all to come back and join us next week. We'll be back for session 38 Wednesday, same time, same place, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Or come join me tomorrow for some more daily writing sprints. Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I'll be here. Yeah, that's what I got. I appreciate y'all. What do you guys got? Who are you?
I'm Chat Soul, working on a spicy romantasy, and probably going to drive myself insane with this.
And crazy.
Wow, about that. I mean, I'm crazy root beer, and I will be at least maybe trying to edit for a while, and then probably taking a break for a while.
Well, crazy. Good luck along your journey, and we'll see you when we see you.
You bet.
All right, my friends. Thank you all for joining us in the stream. We got some great work done, great conversations, but unfortunately, this brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget that words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Because